And we now have seen this new conundrum of a new way of working, where you've got to be agile, you've got to have the data to be agile, you've got to be agile for your clients, your customers, and your portfolios. And if you don't have that, your competitors, are starting to step ahead in the game, right? So we're here today to talk about cloud transformation and financial services.
Yeah, and just on that topic, Richard, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing financial service organizations today?
At the moment, speed. I suppose the emerging issues in the market, right, is we have the banks need to have a new digital capability, right, which means they're going to need new operating models, and they've got to do it all on a very, very, I'm going to say low spend, right? At the same time, they're still having to deal with the normal regulatory requirements, the BAU, and trying to modernize their legacy applications and mainframes, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting if I reflect on some of the organizations I've worked with over the last 5 years. There's a real mantra of better, safer, fast, happier, how they can deliver better software to their customers in a safer manner, and ultimately with less defects. And a focus on quality.
Like, you got to look at what they've got to do, right? So they need quicker time to customers, better data to manage their portfolios, and much better data to manage risk, right? And that's what financial is all about.
I think the data point's really interesting. If we look at the power that cloud brings to financial organizations, not just to bring all their data together as traditionally siloed organizations, but also to understand that data in different ways. If we look at the likes of what Glue and what SageMaker can bring to the organization from AWS as an example, it really changes how those organizations can understand customer behavior.
Yeah, 100%. I think I like the phrase cloud-enabled analytics. I think, it's absolutely core. I mean, I think people are very focused on reporting and really not seeing and unlocking that strategic value that they can get from their data. So, again, we kind of go back to the same point as, if you want to do pricing, if you want to do campaigns, if you want to get customer traction, it's all got to be done now in real time, right? Because everybody's looking for data, speed, on demand. And we're starting to look at key things like de-risking anything from portfolios to properties to oil tankers, right? It's you've got to have the data, right? And the faster that you can do it, then you're able to react, right? And we now have seen this new conundrum of a new way of working, where you've got to be agile, you've got to have the data to be agile, you've got to be agile for your clients, your customers, and your portfolios. And if you don't have that, your competitors, are starting to step ahead in the game, right?
Yeah, it's a really good example, particularly if you look at the banking space and the rise of fintechs, whether it's Revolut, Monzo, Starling. That's changed customer expectations as well. Even outside of FS, we look at the Netflix model.
Absolutely.
Customers now expect immediate responses to their needs, and banks and insurance companies and other financial organizations just aren't set up to deliver that. I think that's where cloud can really have an impact.
Absolutely, like Stripe payments, or the big disruptor, Revolut, right? All of these are cloud-enabled payment technologies, where the banks are losing traction in terms of payment platforms and their ability to hold on to customers and their ability to hold on to the kids, right? And if you remember when you were a kid, I know it was a very long time ago, Andy, you got a Bank of Ireland, an AIB card when you were in school. I still have that bank account, right? But I never go into that bank. Why? Because we're in the age of the digital age, right? So we're in the age of digital age. My kids aren't using an AIB card, right? They're using Revolut. So I've got an 11-year-old, a 13-year-old who's using digital services enabled by cloud as part of a BAU activity in their lives, and they're only 12 or 13, right?
Yeah, and I think across financial organizations, we're going to see a real trend of increasing regulatory pressure alongside that digital expectations of the customer base, driving change, and it's not okay anymore, I think, for those organizations to rely on the historic marketplace, as you put it, the old piggy banks we all have. They've got to respond to that change, otherwise the customers who are getting mortgages or life insurance in 10 years won't be on their platform.
And when you say change, right, change in a bank is massive. So based on your experience, where do you think they should start?
It's a really good question. I think customer is key. And we talked about it earlier around that data piece, but really being able to engage with that customer. And the other piece that you mentioned, which I think is interesting, is change. Big change programs, we've found that they don't work.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really important for those organizations to start small, iterate quickly, and feed that back to the customer. So how do they get from these monolithic large programs into much smaller, much more iterative, continuous delivery is going to be critical for financial organizations.
And I think that's the issue. People don't realize that it's not a tech, it's a people, it's a process, it's a technology solution that you need, right? And there's a new way of working. I like to see there's a new way of working in town called agile, and people shouldn't be frightened, right? It's about how do you iteratively make those bold moves, without risking, making sure it's secure, scalable, confined to what you really want to do, and showing value the whole way through. And I think cloud enables that, enables you to take chances, which I know banks can be risk averse, right? But this enables you to fail fast, which is a much better thing to be able to do in a bank, right? But more importantly, as you mentioned earlier, it's that whole enablement to actually be able to track what you're doing, to be able to show the data behind what you're doing, to immediately to be able to show the value, the KPIs, the metrics that banks love, right? And I mean, the regulator just thrives on that. So if you're not making the best use of your time, your clients, your data within that, then you're not really, getting ahead of the competition. I think that's massive.
It is massive. I think the thing I've noticed increasingly is organizations are able to focus on business value over technical implementation. So if I go back in my career, my first project was racking and stacking servers in a data center. That didn't deliver any business value for the bank I was working for, right?
Absolutely.
But now we can, in 15 minutes, we can have a secure, scalable environment that we can deliver that business value on top of.
100%. And I think that's our key issue, right? I think our key issue is, you mentioned the data centers. People look at cloud not as an enabler, but kind of an infrastructure-based technology, not understanding the velocity and value that will bring to them, that will bring to their customers, that will bring to their portfolio management, that will bring it to their risk of their portfolios, and get into land and portfolios they can manage and see and be compliant on a continual basis. And I think that's the real value of cloud. So like the point you make, actually, I think that's one of the issues with cloud and cloud transformation, is you mentioned data center, and cloud is becoming a technology infrastructure-based thing. So because of that, they're not really realizing that the velocity that cloud brings to the bank, is an enabler for acceleration in terms of the management of their customers, the management of their portfolios, the data that can get to manage risk better, and the all-over velocity that it brings to the banking and to insurance services.
Thanks very much, Richard. It's really insightful.